We're going to go ahead and open the Board of Adjustments meeting for the City of Wilmington. Today is Thursday, June 12th. It is 11:06. Before we get started, I'm going to read the Board of Adjustments introduction. Hearings before the Board of Adjustments are quasi-judicial in nature. Decisions for the Board are based on the record of these proceedings. To grant a variance requires a concurrent vote of 4/5 of the members of the Board. To reverse or modify the determination of an administrative official requires a simple majority. Evidence submitted to the Board for review becomes part of the record. Appeals to the Board's decision are in Superior Court and are based on the record. Appeals must be filed within 30 days of the date of filing of the Board's order in the Planning Division. A hearing before the Board is conducted in accordance with rules of procedure. Those who want to testify in a case are sworn as witnesses. The chairperson recognizes those who want to testify or their attorneys for presentation of evidence during the hearing. To ensure that all testimony is properly recorded, please come forward to address the Board, state your name, address, and speak clearly. The next item is we'll swear in anyone that's going to be speaking today.
All right, we'll ask that staff, applicants, members of the public who wish to speak today will stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear that testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the May 15th meeting. If there aren't any changes, I'd entertain a motion for those approval.
Propose a motion that we approve the minutes from the May 15 meeting.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Meeting minutes are approved. Our next item is old business. It's 5302 Autumn Drive, a variance to City Code Section 18-28 for the reduction to the lot area and the setback requirements to facilitate the division of the lot in an R15 district. This applicant has requested to withdraw this item.
Yes, sir.
Okay, for the record, we'll show that that has been withdrawn. Our next item is new business. It's 19 South 10th Street, appealing to a zoning determination regarding use of structure as a nightclub in an urban mixed-use district. This one has also been withdrawn by the applicant?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll acknowledge that on the record. We have two items that are asking for continuances. The first one is item 36228, North Bradley Overlook. Appeal of a zoning officer's determination that two trees located within a conservation resource overlay do not meet the criteria for removal as set forth in the City Code Section 18-317. Catherine?
This one needs to be continued due to improper notice. The sign that was posted on the property was removed.
Okay, so it needs to be removed. It needs to be continued to our July 17th,
Yes,
2025
sir. That's
meeting?
the applicant's request.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we continue item 36228 North Bradley Overlook to the July 7 meeting.
All right, there's been a motion to continue the July 17th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will be continued. We're going to take item 7, which is also a continuance, and discuss it next. That one involves 117 South 8th Street, a variance to City Code 18-28, minimum lot width requirements for a subdivision within the R3 district, variance to City Code Section 18-663 for the creation of a new lot which fronts on an alleyway. Grace, is this one your case?
That's correct. That one's been continued to the July meeting.
All right. There's been a request for continuance. Is there a motion for that continuance?
I'd like to make a motion that we continue item 7117 South 8th Street to the July 17 meeting.
All right. There's been seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That will be continued to our July 17th meeting. Moving forward, we are still down one of the commissioners. Do we have an update on his?
He's about 15 minutes out,
Okay.
but he's on the way.
All right. Our next item on our agenda is going to be item 4, but with the case of having to have 4/5 concurrence, I would assume the applicant would want us to wait for that, Commissioner. It's regarding 14 Formosa Drive. Would you like to wait till we have a full board? Okay, thank you. We'll, while we're waiting, we'll just take I'll take a brief recess. A motion that we can go brief
We
recess.
could, if you would like, discuss some
Oh,
changes to your calendar. If
Yeah,
Ms.
yeah.
Bradshaw's prepared.
Let's get yeah, keep it going, that works. Thank you for that. It would
What
be-
about lunch?
That's not happening.
I already ate my protein bar.
But so in other business is the update to the 2025 calendar. I'll turn it over to city staff to update us.
We just want to make everyone aware that the August Board of Adjustment meeting is moved up a week to the second Thursday of the month, so that would be August the 12th. This is due to the technology being removed from this facility and moving into the new facility at Skyline Drive at Skyline Center at 929 North Front Street. So that would make your September meeting on the appropriate day, but in the new building down on Front Street. So just keep in mind that the August date will be now August 12th, and the deadline has been altered appropriately as well.
Okay, does anybody have any questions regarding that? All right, thank you for that update. And I guess we'll take a brief recess while we wait for the last member to come. I apologize for the inconvenience. Could I have a motion to take a brief recess?
If I may just interrupt for
Oh,
just a moment.
sure.
Just to confirm, the August BOA meeting is on Thursday, the 14th?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I misspoke and told you the 12th. It's actually Thursday, the 14th. Thank you, Grace and Catherine.
All right, thank you. All right. We will, like I said, we apologize for the inconvenience, and we'll take a brief recess until the other member is here. Thank you. We're going to call back to order the Board of Adjustments meeting for Thursday, June 12th, 2025. It is 11:31. Our next item is item number 4. It's 14 Formosa Drive. It's a variance to the maximum height of a fence on a double frontage lot in the R15 district. Catherine Thurston presenting.
Thank you, Chairman Huvis, members of the board. The subject property at 14 Formosa Drive contains a 1,500 square foot dwelling, which is a conforming use in the R15 residential district. All of the adjacent property is also zoned R15. This property is a through lot, which is also known as a double frontage lot. It has street frontage along Formosa Drive to the south and Telephone Road to the north. Double frontage lots require a front yard setback along both street frontages, and within front yards, fence height limits are 4 feet. The subject property contained a non-conforming 6-foot-tall privacy fence along Formosa Drive that was erected prior to annexation into the city limits. As you can see from the photos, that fence was in dire need of repair, and the city received a complaint about the fence and subsequently issued a notice of violation to notify the owner of corrective procedures. Throughout the time the owner was working to correct the violations, the city received several additional complaints pertaining to the subject fence. One of the complaints was that the fence was in the right-of-way. It was determined by city engineering to be an invalid complaint, and so the property owner continued on with the work. On February 3rd, 2025, upon completion of the replacement fence, city staff inspected the subject property to confirm compliance and discovered that the new fence exceeded the height of the prior fence by approximately 2 feet. So this is approximately an 8-foot privacy fence instead of the prior 6-foot-tall one. So the city closed the fence maintenance case and issued a new notice of violation for the height of the fence to exceed the one that it replaced. On April 4th, 2025, the applicant submitted a request for a variance to City Code Section 18-325 to allow the newly constructed fence to remain. This matter is set for hearing before the board today, June 12th, 2025. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have of city staff, and the applicant is also present.
All right. Does anyone have any questions of Catherine at this time? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Catherine. I guess my question is, to what extent, if any, during the course of putting up the replacement fence, was the applicant in touch with you all about the height requirement?
Me personally, not at all. So I'm not sure if there were other conversations of which I'm not aware.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. I'm sure we'll have some other questions later.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Would the applicant like to present in this matter? And before we go any further, since we had a little break, did anyone come in during the break that needs to be sworn in? I just want to make sure we didn't miss anybody. All right, thank you. All right, Carrie Hanley. Hey, it
Ms.
just,
Carrie Hanley. I live
you-
at 14 Formosa Drive.
can you, okay, good. Yep,
Yes,
now
I
we can hear you.
was,
Thank you.
yes. So my property is between Telephone Road, which has recently become a road, and Formosa Drive. The front of my house faces Telephone Road. It was recently made a proper road. I don't even know. I'm sorry, I'm really not prepared at all. Formosa Drive has always been my backyard, but because the alleyway, I suppose, in the front of my property had no address, had no, whatever. So it's a dirt road. It's always been the back of my yard. The fence is hideous. I've received numerous complaints about it. I cried about it on many, many occasions. So they made Telephone Road a proper road. That became the proper address. So it was formally the front of my property. Formosa Drive became the back of my property. I looked everywhere, as I said in the request for variance, which I must apologize because I had no idea. I had no idea that anyone was going to see this.
I have to have you talk in the mic. We're having
I'm
trouble.
sorry.
Even though we're this close,
And
we
I'm
can't hear you.
rambling as
No,
well.
no,
I'm
no worries.
sorry.
And
So-
you can take your time. It's
know, I'm
not
sorry.
something you do every time, so you're good.
I wanted to apologize for the variance request because it was not at all thought out. It was quickly typed out on my phone. It's just very unprofessional. And it doesn't make any sense, really. So my address is Formosa Drive. The front of my property is on Telephone Road. They made Telephone Road the formal address. Formosa Drive became formally my backyard. I fixed my fence, which the city and Mr. Phelps has called numerous complaints about this fence, which I don't blame him. So I fixed it. I looked everywhere, and even on the variance application, it says that if your rear yard is 8 feet, 8 foot, I'm sorry. I have all this stuff, hold on. This is not my forte.
No, no worries.
With any side or rear yard, the maximum height for any fence shall be 8 feet. Everywhere I looked, that's what it said. I put up a fence, the city, and I have numerous complaints. In fact, can I give you?
Yes, we can. We can give them through Casey.
Numerous complaints. I fixed the fence. Code enforcement came out, and I had an 8-foot fence, and then I had posts as well that I was going to grow jasmine on.
Yeah, and you can move the microphone if it makes it easier for you, to your side, whatever. Yeah.
Regardless, I sent it over there. Code enforcement, Mr. Smith came out, measured the fence, said 8-foot was fine, but I had to take down the posts. There we are, I found it. Received a complaint regarding a fence. Inspection revealed the fence in the rear yard was in disrepair. The fence must be repaired to comply with city zoning. Photos of the damaged fence were taken. Revealed that the fence has an improvement. The lean of the fence section was corrected. However, the fence boards are in a state of disrepair. The lean appears to have been corrected. An attempt to reach the owner No citation, good faith correcting this violation. Reinspection revealed that the 6-foot privacy fence sections have been replaced with 8-foot privacy sections. However, the structural posts do exceed the maximum height of 8 feet. A reinspection in 2 weeks has been set to ensure excess of the post has been removed. I did everything I was asked to do.
Okay.
And if you will look, the neighbor has called about the weeds, he's called about the fence, he's called about a structure that we work in our yard. He has called and made it so that I had to come to a city council meeting 2 years ago to change my address because he doesn't like the fact that my property is facing the wrong way. It's all in public records. It's all there in that file I put in. I put up an 8-foot fence. The city asked me to fix the fence. Code enforcement said I could do it, said it was okay. I spent more money finishing the fence. It looks beautiful. The neighborhood is not a beautiful neighborhood. I certainly would not do anything to make the neighborhood worse, if you could. So I spent a lot of money. I'm not sure what I did wrong, why I'm here.
Okay. Have you had times where you've talked, is there people at the city you've talked with in addition to the zoning officer? Or is that your main contact was Mr.
Yes.
Smith?
I spoke with, and you can read all the emails.
Okay.
I spoke with Miss Thurston. Yes, yes, ma'am. Hi.
No.
I've spoken with her.
Variance submittal.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
All right. And, okay. Does anyone have any questions of the applicant right now?
Yeah, I did. So you mentioned in your testimony that your address was originally Formosa, 14
Yes.
Formosa, and then it was switched to Telephone Road?
Yes, but we still use Formosa.
So just trying, I mean, I can kind of see your perspective of, for however long it's been, 14 Formosa, you were considering Telephone Road as your back.
No, sir. If you look at the map, you can see Formosa Drive is the back. We do have a barn shed building back there.
So
It's our backyard.
Okay, so then to confirm, the fence is on Telephone Road, or
No,
is it
sir.
on Formosa?
Formosa Drive, which is the
Okay.
backyard. Yes,
All right, thank you.
yes. Both of which are dirt roads. No sidewalks, no sewer, hardly city standards.
Other questions of the applicant at this time?
I believe you said, ma'am, that you may recall I asked the question about contacting or engaging with the city as the replacement fence was being put up. But I think you just mentioned that you had been told by somebody, advised by somebody about the 8-foot
Oh, yes.
height? And who was that again, if you don't mind?
Mr. Devonte Smith. Devonte Smith, it's all, I have it all here. Every complaint, every record, every email. And I also have a permit for working on the property, so I assume that was all covered.
Right. Other questions at this time? Yes, sir?
Actually, I have a question maybe for the staff at some point. So right now, we have this case, and it is still indicated as 14 Formosa Drive, right? But if I've understood correctly, and maybe I'm wrong, the formal address of the applicant's property is now whatever that number is?
No, sir.
Telephone Road, or no?
Um,
Like your mail, when you receive it, the mail goes to?
No, actually, and here's a record of the council meeting. And it, blah, blah, blah. That for 911, the address is 40 Telephone Road, but we were allowed to keep our original addresses. And when I actually use 40 Telephone Road to get even pizza delivered, everyone is confused. So and I'm certainly not going to change my address with every single thing I have. And I do believe that this all was started because of Mr. Phelps, which is also in public record.
Okay.
Thank you.
So on your plat or your deed?
Yes, sir.
Does it list as 40 Telephone Road, or does
No,
it list
sir.
as 14?
14 Formosa Drive.
Okay.
So I would never, ever actually have done that, understanding basic city code. I would not have put an 8-foot fence in my front yard. It's considered my front yard.
If I may offer a point of clarification, city code requires on through lots, double frontage lots, that both frontages along the street be treated as a front yard. That's the reason for the 4-foot restriction. This fence predated annexation into the city limits, and so it was allowed to remain at 6 feet. And so when the applicant replaced her fence, I don't know that it was clear that it needed to be replaced in kind. And so whenever she replaced it, it seems that she wanted to put up a taller fence, perhaps to better conceal what was functionally being used as her rear yard from the neighbors. And without understanding that that was the plan, city staff, it sounds like, did not advise that, it couldn't exceed what was previously there.
Well, Catherine.
No, absolutely my ignorance. However,
Well, I'm looking at the correspondence from Devontae Smith, dated February 19th, and this was in the information submitted in the record. It said, reinspection on 1725 revealed that the 6-foot privacy fence sections have been replaced with 8-foot privacy sections. However, the structural posts do exceed the maximum height of 8 feet. A reinspection in 2 weeks has been set to ensure the excess of the post has been removed. And it says a reinspection, it says not to exceed the maximum height of 8 feet, which is what she did. So, I mean, in my mind, she was following the directive from the city to keep the fence at a maximum height of 8 feet, because that's what Mr. Smith put in his correspondence with her twice. And that's been entered into record, so.
Any thoughts? I guess you can't.
Yeah, I
speak
understand
for-
that there was some confusion as to what was allowed on the part of the city and the applicant, and we would certainly stipulate to that.
So we can state that the documents that we were given or submitted in the record is related to how the matter was handled. Okay. All right. And everyone has time to review that. All right.
Thank you for those clarifications.
Yeah, anybody, we'll have probably more questions eventually. We're going to open up the public hearing. But do you have anything else you'd like to add at this time?
just that I really, and you can see by my property, every cent that we have goes into this property. It cost us a lot of money to fix this fence. We saved for years for this horrible, embarrassing fence. It was horrible. If you see any pictures of it, you would cry. I did my best. He came out halfway through. He said it was fine. We invested more money. Those pickets are twice the price. So, and each one was made. We didn't buy them. It was made. So how could we would have to what? Chainsaw them? I'm not really sure. So it would just be absolutely a nightmare.
Okay.
And if you look at the neighborhood, if you look on the rest of Telephone Road, there's 10, 12, and 8-foot fences, which I have pictures of, which of course I left at home. So I really did think that I was fitting in with the neighborhood. Certainly didn't do anything that purposefully to be,
Okay.
that's all.
All right, and then the
Thank you.
process, what we're doing, we're going to open the public hearing, have that, and then you'll have more time to talk after, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and does the city have anything else before we go in?
The applicant, she's a homeowner, so I just kind of want to tie back to the
Yeah.
4 findings a bit as city staff. I think that in considering this variance, you would need to consider whether or not any hardship involved is necessary to maintain the spirit and the intent of the ordinance, and look at the property to determine if maybe there are conditions such as the double frontage that would make this property unique, and also consider whether or not the applicant was operating in good faith and that the need for the variance doesn't result from actions that the applicant took.
Okay, thank you. Any questions before we go in? All right, we're going to go ahead, we're going to go into the evidentiary hearing. This is for non-parties to come forward to present any information relating to this matter. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair, board members. I do have some.
Just for the record, I just need you to state your name and address, please.
Sure. My name is Mike Phelps. I live at 111 Formosa Drive. I live directly across the from the property at 14 Formosa. I do have some other case statements here. I have some handouts of some statements of fact, just for you guys to look over, some
Okay.
bullet points.
We'll go ahead and have you give those to Casey.
Both these work?
Thank you. All right, Mr. Phelps, sorry about that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Good information there.
All right, you want to go ahead with your?
Yeah, so again, my name is Mike Phelps. I live at 111 Formosa, directly across the street from 14 Formosa. I'm here to oppose the variance request for the 8-foot fence. This fence violates the city's 4-foot height limit for front yards on double frontage lots by at least the 4 feet. It wasn't simply replaced, though. It was rebuilt taller. It now wraps around 2 newly added parking spaces, and they also added a rear access gate to the side of the property. So these are significant changes that go beyond any legal non-conforming status. And, simply just replacing the fence, I think, would have been probably fine. The applicant claims similar fences exist nearby, but that's not accurate. Along public-facing, city-maintained sections of Formosa and Telephone Road, all fences are 6 feet or under and allow visibility. Nearby double-frontage lots like 26 and 30 Formosa, who architecturally face exactly like the applicants, they also follow these rules as well as a newer home on 32 Formosa with having a 4-foot fence with site distances and setbacks. There's no neighborhood pattern that justifies the exception. The new fence is built just 1 foot from the property, from the right-of-way line, which to me creates serious visibility issues, provided this gets approved with the new parking spaces. Vehicles backing out from the new parking spaces have no clear line of sight until they're halfway into the street. This raises real safety concerns for me under section 18667 about vision clearances. In February and May of 2022, police were called to 14 Formosa. Both times, officers arrived on the Formosa side and were clearly confused by the fence and layout. I had to go outside and explain to them that the front of the home actually faces telephone. That kind of delayed emergency access to me could cause serious consequences. This also goes into the fact of where we started to rename the road. It was previously an unnamed road. I'm not sure I don't have any facts to say that the previous address of that was 40 Telephone because there was no street sign. It was actually an unnamed road. There are about 6 or 7 homes that architecturally face that what is now Telephone Road. So the city prompted to move to name the road Telephone. They did allow residents now the opportunity to move their mailboxes to architecturally face and kind of establish more, hey, what's the front and what's the back of the home? So they do have that opportunity now. This resident hasn't moved their mailbox. This property has a long code enforcement history. They've applied at least 5 times, indicating a plan to convert the shed into an ADU since 2022. I do have the 2 most recent applications in there, with it highlighted showing that the resident does intend to make the rear shed in the back along Formosa an ADU. The current case permit is still open right now. I mention this because I feel a lot of this in the height of the fence is made to conceal the further intent of trying to make this an EDU along with the parking spaces. So it seems that they're trying to create they're trying to make Formosa now actually the front, I guess, of the home by applying a sign that's there, even though all the residents have traditionally always parked on the front of which is now Telephone. The residents also posted conflicting signs. Their mailbox is still on Formosa, but there's a sign instructing deliveries to the front on Telephone. They mounted large house numbers on the Formosa side, further marking it as the front. And shortly after this hearing was announced, they installed 2 cameras pointed at my property. Just this morning, those same cameras were used to play music directed toward my home. It's not security. It feels retaliatory and inappropriate. I want to be clear. I'm not opposed to the original 6-foot fence being rebuilt exactly as it was. Back to the added height, the gates, no parking. But what's there now, to me, is excessive, unsafe, and inconsistent with the neighborhood. I respectfully ask the board to deny the variance and require the property owner to bring the fence into full compliance with city code. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.
I just want to mention, in regards to the additions in the backyard, the board should not take into consideration things that the applicant is allowed to do by right. This is strictly about the fence.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Any questions, or?
Anybody? Nope, we're good. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
All right. Did the city get a copy of what Mr. Phelps? Yep, so you can review his, I have one right here. All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak in relation to this? All right, while we're in the, yes, ma'am. We can't hear you until you get to the mic.
I am a spaz. I did have pictures. Telephone Road, across the street, there's 10-foot fences, 8-foot fences. Here they are, right here, and the street sign is right there.
Ma'am, you'll need to send those to Casey if you want them
Will do,
submitted.
but
in
I'm
the
just
record.
saying they are there. And you can see that, unfortunately, this man and his parents, I was sitting on my couch having coffee this morning, and they had driven into my front yard and had creeped, and then went right back around to their house. So of course, I had cameras put up a couple months ago, because you can see the harassment, you can see the harassment. So this is my yard, this is my business. I do everything I can to make it beautiful and private. I don't bother anyone at all, and I just wanted to say that. And I do have many pictures of the same type of fences on Telephone Road, and I had to put up the gate to get my lawnmower out, because if I don't mow the weeds, he will call code enforcement. That is all. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We can ask them. When we come back, we can, yeah. Anyone else to speak in the public? Does anyone, you have questions of the applicant during the public hearing? Have her come back up.
Yeah, I have a question.
Ma'am, we have a question. Do you have a question?
If not for the applicant, then maybe also, and/or staff.
Okay.
So I understand that the core issue here is the height of the fence, and that's but the issue of visibility, is there something that we should know about how the fence has been positioned that indeed is or isn't problematic with respect to moving cars in and out of what appear to be these one or two new parking spaces at the, let's call it the back of the property now?
This fence is not located within any required site triangles.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you brought the issue back to, yes, this is just about the
Right.
height of the fence.
Right.
The fact that the fence was inset into the property to allow for parking actually makes it more conforming, because whenever you set the fence off of the property line, which also is not a requirement, fences can be right on the property line, but once it's set in 20 feet, then it can go up to 8 feet by right.
Fascinating. Thank you.
And so what we're looking at is the difference between a 6-foot fence along Formosa Drive and an 8-foot fence along Formosa Drive. I've driven Formosa Drive. There are many non-conforming fences along that street for various reasons, mostly height. Some are chain link, but there are many non-conforming fences along that section.
Thank you for clarifying, Catherine.
Well, since we're in the public hearing, we'll ask a couple of these questions for Catherine. Relating to the fence, it should be, if someone came in didn't have a fence, it should be 4 feet.
Yes, sir.
And then, but because it was an existing 6-foot fence, so, but after, when you have that situation, and say it was totally destroyed, do you still have the ability of coming back to the non-conforming?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
City code doesn't allow you to increase the extent of nonconformities, and arguably the height of a fence is an increase to the extent of a nonconformity. Also, arguably, setting it off of the property line is a decrease to the extent of the nonconformity.
Okay, and it had been brought up about the, like which was the front or the back, about the height, and the zoning officer. Anything to add? Have you had a chance to look at, I guess, that information?
Yes, not in depth, but But I mean, you guys have essentially gotten to the root of the matter. It was a non-conforming fence. It's allowed to be replaced with another non-conforming fence. The applicant seeking a variance to allow it to be slightly more non-conforming.
Okay, all right. While we're in this, any other questions for city? All right. Is there, before I close the evidentiary hearing, is there anyone else that'd like to speak? Yes, sir.
Yes, I guess I have questions about the legal nonconformity. From what I understand, when you put something back, like I understand that before, when you put it back the same, even though it was a legal nonconforming fence, it would have to be built back at the exact same without significant modifications to it.
If you have questions, you will need to email staff or call staff and speak with them directly. The board won't be able to answer those.
Okay. I have actually messaged a lot, and I usually don't get responses back from your staff, and I can confirm all the
I'm
dates
sorry
and
to
times.
hear that. You're free to copy me on your email if you'd
Okay.
like.
I do appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Okay, we can cover your question in our inquiries on
Sure.
height.
I appreciate
All
it.
right, thank you, sir. Since we're in the public hearing, before we have one of the questions I think we had talked before was the fact about being able to come back with a 6-foot non-conforming. Normally it would be, if it wasn't there, it would be 4. The non-conforming was 6, and what we have in question was an 8-foot fence installed, and we have a 2-foot variance because of what was there and what's new in that case.
Right, we're looking at a 2-foot variance request,
Right.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so the item is, when you have a non-conforming, you have to go back with what actually the less, either the non-conforming or less, if you're within the time frame. Is that?
You just can't increase the extent of the nonconformity. So a different fence could have been put up, an aluminum fence could have been put up, or some other change like that. That wouldn't increase the extent of the nonconformity. It's just that the increase in height does.
Okay, all right. I just want to get the clarification situation. All right. Being that there's no one else wanting to speak in the evidentiary hearing, I'm going to go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. Does the city have anything else?
No, thank you.
Does the applicant have anything else you'd like to say today? Okay, all right, thank you. All right, that being the case, we can move forward to deliberations. Any discussion?
Yeah, you know, I understand where everybody's coming from here, but the applicant does have correspondence from city staff that said that the height of the fence cannot exceed 8 feet. And she was required to lop off 2 feet of the posts to get it down to 8 feet. So in my opinion, I think the applicant has put forth every effort to comply with the request of the city, which told her 8 feet was okay. So, Officer Smith.
All right, anybody else have thoughts?
I would agree, but I'd like to take another look at those correspondence.
I think it's page 9.
Thank you. A question I might have, is it a requirement, or what is the training of the building inspectors to know the zoning, I mean, the 8-foot versus 6-foot and replace it in kind? You know, is there a?
Typically, in a rear yard, people usually want to put up a 6-foot fence, but we know that in a side or rear yard, as long as it's not a corner lot or some historic district or some special circumstance, an 8-foot fence is typically allowed.
Okay.
And so we just utilize standard language for, you know, what is the maximum allowed. And it looks like the fact that the fence that was being replaced was already non-conforming wasn't taken into consideration in those notes.
Okay. Other thoughts? Has everyone had the opportunity to review these notes? All right, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree that, upon the building inspector's perspective, that an 8-foot fence would be sufficient, and the applicant adhered to that.
If we examine the 4 findings of fact, unnecessary hardship would result. She's already lopped off the top 2 feet of the post and was told 8 feet was okay. The property is unique and it's a flow-through, and there's still some question as to where the front of the house is. If the rear is Formosa, 8-foot fence is fine. I don't think the hardship resulted in actions taken by the applicant. I think the hardship resulted in inconsistencies on the side of the city of Wilmington, who told her that 8-foot fence was going to be okay. And I think it's certainly consistent with the neighborhood. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve the variance as requested based on the 4 findings of fact.
All right, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and before we vote, just so we know that we're only focused on the fence, any other things that were mentioned regarding?
This is a motion to approve the 2-foot height variance request.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The variance is granted. We'll move on to our next item. Next item is item number 5, 1109 Davis Sound Lane. It's a variance to City Code 18-663B3E to exceed the number of dwelling units served by a private access easement. And Grace, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Grace LeMay, Zoning Planner 1 for the City of Wilmington. The subject property today is a vacant lot in the R15 zoning district. On or about April 28th, 2025, the owner purchased the subject property with the intent to construct a single-family dwelling. And although the R15 district does permit single-family dwellings, the City of Wilmington Land Development Code, Section 18663, states that no more than 4 residential units shall use a private access easement as a sole means of access. The current private access easement, known as Davis Sound Lane, is approximately 20 feet wide, unimproved, and serves 6 single-family residences. The applicant is seeking a variance to allow access to an additional single-family residence, which would be the 7th dwelling unit for which the easement serves as access. The applicant has requested a variance to Land Development Code Section 18663, which allows a minimum of 4 residential units to use a private access easement as a sole means of access. The total number of residential units approved to utilize the existing easement would be 7 should the board decide to grant this variance. The applicant states that without the variance, any use of the property would not be possible due to lack of access. On April 29th, 2025, planning staff accepted an application for a variance to Section 18663 access requirements to allow an existing non-conforming private access easement to serve as access for a total of 7 residences to include the proposed dwelling on the subject property. This matter is set for hearing before the Board of Adjustment on June 12th, 2025. I'd like to submit the staff report and all attachments to the record. I'm available for any questions, and I believe the applicant has a representative here as well.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for Grace? Yes, sir.
If you happen to know, how did we, if I understood correctly, how did we get already beyond the 4 residence limit to 6, in case there's any historical elements here that would be pertinent?
I believe the lots were pre-existing already when the private access easement was created.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, thank you. Well, would the applicant's representative like to speak?
Thank you very much. I think I can answer that question a little better. My name's Cindy Wolf, and I'm here on behalf of Billy Elmore, the current owner of the property. I appreciate Grace's summary of everything. That access easement and all of the homes that are already there predate the city's annexation and this situation. So had it been in the county still, there would be no issue with a building permit. So it was the city's annexation and the city taken over with their code concerning private access easements. So this sort of shows you the red dots are the homes that currently access Davis Sound Lane. The ones that are flanking it are access Upper Reach or Fleet. And so this gives you a little bit better idea of what we're working with. Certainly the unnecessary hardship would be that the limitation would leave him with no buildable lot whatsoever, which is, no use of his property. The parcel's location being landlocked other than that accessible private access easement, neither dedication of a proper road right-of-way or expansion of the width of that private access easement is possible without cooperation and action from at least 3 of the other people that front on it. So what we have done is, prior to this meeting, we have been at the Design Adjustment Committee, and we have their approval and are trying to also mitigate the situation. So again, this exhibit shows that he would only be the second property that would be using this non-conforming private access easement. But for mitigation of that, we worked with the Design Adjustment Committee and the staff to propose not only improving the access to Davis Sound Lane, because that is possible, it is possible, and also improving the gravel to the more standard 16-foot fire services safety width of it, and providing a turnaround. So we feel that the mitigation certainly shows that the hardship had not resulted from anything the property owner's doing. He's doing everything he can to improve the lot of all 7 properties that will eventually access this if approved. So with that, we believe that the requested variance would allow this property owner to pursue reasonable use of his parcel, the construction of a single-family home on an existing lot of record, and thereby providing substantial justice. Certainly, the spirit, purpose, and intent of the code provision is to limit the creation of new lots being served only by a private access easement rather than actual city streets. These lots on Davis Sound Lane were created way prior to the city's annexation, and the subject parcel just happens to be the final unbuilt-upon lot. Allowing some latitude in the interpretation and the application of this specific requirement will be mitigated by those roadway improvements that he's committed to and that the Design Adjustment Committee has approved, thereby enhancing the public safety for all of the lots accessing it. And we'd be happy to answer your questions.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Wolf?
The only question I have, the Design Adjustment Committee, the improvements to the road, they're committed to. I mean, if we grant this variance, we don't have that.
Their approval was basically contingent upon you, and your contingent is,
Based on them. Right.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
But it would allow him to now seek a building permit.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Well, and I just want to, so the current Davis Sound, I'm just kind of curious, this is probably for.
I actually have
There it
some.
is, yes. Wow, so it comes right into an intersection.
It's an
that's-
unusual looking.
Yeah.
And somewhat dangerous, obviously.
And if I understood the other map that was being showed is, going back to that picture, if I may,
Okay.
that little, it sounds like the new exit to be built, the new standard city, would be about where you see that corner into Beasley Road. Do you want to do, Casey, could you go back to that other little picture there that?
The picture?
Yeah, there.
Mm-hmm.
So what would happen is Davis Sound Road would receive a kind of there'd be a
You
little
can sort of
turnoff
see it here.
into.
The city happens to own that triangle of property. That's the key.
Yeah.
And so you can see,
Right.
let's see if I have another.
No, that, I'm beginning to get the idea,
I
yeah.
had another one where you've seen at different times in the past, people have in fact used the driveway that we're proposing. It's just dirt. Sometimes they'll come
Yeah.
off at a perpendicular, sometimes they'll use the other. But now it would be more formally a concrete apron to city standards. The
Excellent.
sign would be relocated, Davis Sound Road, a lot less confusion for sure.
Right, and Davis Sound Road widened, you said, to 16 feet. It's currently about
The
what?
gravel drive now is firm to 16 to 20 feet all along there. The maintained part can be anywhere from 12 to 14, but he has committed to increase it to 16 all the way to the end of his property where a turnaround will be placed in gravel.
Okay, and one last thing, if I may, and I appreciate it. The two little white arrows, are those existing exits for those two properties into
Yes,
Fleet?
those
Okay, they
properties are
already-
addressed in front on Fleet and Upper Reach.
Okay, so they're already okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Does, any other questions for anyone?
Yeah. Will the proposed driveway meet code standards, like offsets from the adjacent property? Or are you going to need to get any?
Beasley Road isn't a major thoroughfare. I mean, that would be working with the city engineering department for a standard driveway,
Okay.
private access driveway.
Anybody else? All right, does the city have any questions of Ms. Wolf?
Nothing further from the city.
Okay, all right. Yes, sir.
Well, I have a general question. Forgive me. So which comes first in terms of the chicken and the egg here? Would these improvements, and this is probably for the city, need to be made if we grant the variance before construction could be initiated on at the property?
The improvements would need to be made prior to the applicant receiving a certificate of compliance from the city and ultimately a certificate of occupancy from the county.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. All right. We're going to go ahead and open the evidentiary hearing. This is for anyone, any non-parties that have any information related that's pertinent to this matter. Is there anyone that would like to speak for this matter? All right. Seeing that before we close the evidentiary hearing, are there any questions of the applicant or the staff during this hearing? All right, we'll go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. Any further from the city?
Further from the city?
All right, applicant, Ms. Wolf, anything else you want to add? All right, we'll go ahead and move towards deliberations. What's your thoughts?
Personally feel like this variance does answer the four findings of fact, with unnecessary hardship being that you would not be able to use the property whatsoever. The applicant did not take any actions that would have caused this hardship, and it is peculiar given the location and the private access agreement, and in spirit of giving access to a lot.
Other discussion, or would you like to make a motion?
Well, I mean, I agree. I mean, and I also think the road improvement is a large mitigating factor because I've been out to that property, and you got to kind of close your eyes and hope when you pull out. So I think the new layout of the road is going to be an enhancement.
I agree with my colleagues. I think that the improvements will be enhance public safety, make access for everybody, improve that as well. And I'm heartened to hear that in this case, everybody seems to be working together and communicating well about what needs to be done to make the improvements and make everything usable. Thank you.
All right, that being the case, do I have anyone with a motion for the variance?
I'd like to propose a motion for address 1109 Davis Sound Lane to exceed the number of dwelling units served by private access easement to the required 7.
All right, and there's been a motion. Is there a second of that motion?
Second.
All right, it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The variance passes. We'll move on to item number 6, 5936 Market Street. It's a variance of City Code 18-316B2 for the removal of 3 specimen trees. Pat O'Malley? Hey, Mahoney, I'm sorry, not O'Malley.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Pat O'Malley, Planning Manager for Development Review. This case, as mentioned, the site is located at 5936 Market Street, and they're currently zoned RB Regional Business, and it used to contain a manufactured housing park On or about March 13th of 2025, a redevelopment plan for the site for the reconstruction of an existing motor vehicle sales dealership, as seen on your screen, was submitted to the city's technical review committee for preliminary review. This proposed new construction is going to consist of the new building shown here on your site plan, associated parking and stormwater facilities, which are also shown on this plan. This includes the removal of 3 specimen trees, which are highlighted in black with the X shown through them on this site plan here. Pursuant to Table 18-316.1 of the Land Development Code, any live oak or longleaf pine with a diameter breast height of 24 inches or more is classified as a specimen tree. The Land Development Code states that any removal of specimen trees is done so through the Board of Adjustment through the authorization of a variance from this board. According to the applicant, the property contains these 3 specimen trees that they're proposing to impact with the stormwater facility shown on the plan here. These are a 24-inch live oak, which is listed as tree number 1, a 24-inch longleaf pine, tree number 2, and a 25-inch longleaf pine is tree number 3 shown on the plans. The applicant asserts that the location of the existing specimen trees, which are situated towards the lowest point of the site, limits the redevelopment potential and hinders effective stormwater management due to the slope of the site. And they contend that their location in combination with the current site conditions presents a design constraint for the proposed development. On the 29th of April, 2025, staff accepted an application for a variance to remove the 3 specimen trees that are shown on your screen pursuant to Land Development Code Section 18-316. This matter is set before the Board of Adjustment today, June 12th, 2025. Concludes my presentation. I'd like to enter this in the case summary into the record. Happy to answer any questions that you have, and the applicant's here as well.
All right. Does anyone have any questions of Pat? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. So a couple things. One, I think I heard you say that the property generally slopes towards where those 3 specimen trees are. Is that about
that is
what I heard?
what the applicant asserted in their submittal to staff, that the site slopes away from Market Street and drains toward that direction.
Huh. And what sort of storm management, I think you used the term facility, are they envisaging? And the reason I am asking this, to be perfectly frank, is that, I mean, you know, there are things like rain gardens that can be created where you don't necessarily, or indeed you add plant life and so forth to receive and manage and you know, facilitate the percolation of the water and so forth when there is a storm. What sort of thing are they planning there in terms of storm management, sir?
I believe they've shown a stormwater basin in the rear. I can't speak specifically onto their design and what specifically would be required. Not a stormwater engineer, so I can't testify to that specifically, but they are showing a treatment method, and they would be required to treat all the newly created impervious surface on this site with a city-approved stormwater control method.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you. All right, would the applicant like to speak?
Thank you. Again, for the record, my name's Cindy Wolf. I'm here with Mary Margaret Latham, and on behalf of her, through this process, she and the Latham family are the head of Latham Family Properties, the owners of this property. You can see that this property had been a mobile home park. What is indicative of this sort of thing is a whole lot of compacted gravel where the mobile homes were situated, and then certainly the circulation area around it. And that will come into play to address Mr. Norman's question in just a second. The plan is, what is on the right-hand side here, to build a new auto dealership. Stormwater management will be a requirement for that. As far as types of creative stormwater management, like infiltration, those types of things, that is also based upon the seasonal high groundwater and also infiltration capability. In a situation like this where it was previously used, it's very difficult to create that sort of situation because you've already got that compacted surface that goes down anywhere from 12 to 18 inches. In the transition between the different site plans, when I was involved, we actually had a different type of site plan. The stormwater pond is still where it is located because its overflow will then go the natural pattern, which is off the lower left corner of this property, over to where the Department of Environmental Services and Water Quality has their pond. So that's the normal pathway. That being said, we've rearranged the size of the pond to actually address, and I'll show it in a future slide, preserving more significant trees in exchange for just these 3 specimen trees. Tree number 1, the live oak, is a little hard, and I think my picture was a little off. It exists a little to the left of the site, but you can see that it's along a fence. On the opposite side of that fence is a large, again, compacted gravel boatyard. And so as far as the quality and the feasibility, the canopy of that tree is already severely impacted as far as the critical root zone. The other two trees that we're requesting are pines. They sit out alone in the area. Again, their critical root zones have been impacted in the past. So I think this is what is sort of also important to recognize is the 3 black ones in the red are what we're requesting. The other red ones around the site are specimen trees that we are preserving, and all of the green trees are significant trees that we're preserving. So I think we've gone as best possible to create a plan for the type of use that meets the criteria and maximizes the amount of tree preservation that there is. Those 3 trees that will be taken out, the specimens will be mitigated. That's part of the process and the plan. But I'd also like to point out that Subaru specifically is well known for their Loves the Earth program. Just recently, they gave away 105 trees to different groups like the Arboretum, church groups, and others that have planted them around our community. Those include Schumert oaks, bald cypresses, sweet bay magnolias, crepe myrtles, tulip trees. So obviously we have a use. A car dealership is a fairly dense use as far as its needs for coverage, but I believe that this plan and the changes that we made to the original sort of acknowledge that they're doing the best they can with what they have to work with. The subject trees are located in the lowest area of the tract, which we believe is the unnecessary hardship of trying to move the pond. The existing topography is towards the rear, so that's the only location viable. That is peculiar to the property with the topography. The subject tract was formerly a mobile home park, so it's not actions of the owner to take out the trees that are the rest of the trees that are around the site. And we believe that the removal of those specific trees would provide substantial justice for them. They certainly don't cause any type of a safety issue, and that we believe that the latitude in this requirement would serve the spirit of the code with the preservation of all of the other trees that we're attempting. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Ms. Wolf?
Have you looked at shifting the pond around this way a little bit, away from the 3 specimen trees?
Well, but you can see that there are 4 other specimen and at least 2 significant the other way. In the other direction, there are 3 significant trees. I mean, that's at the lower corner, that's an amazing magnolia. The other ones are all live oaks.
Well,
So
the reason I ask is it looks like the retention pond for the dealership just on the bottom of that picture is right there beside where, if you shifted it over, would be beside the pond of the dealership to the bottom of this photo.
I'm not following you. Are
Can
you
you go back
talking
to
about the,
There you go.
that one?
Yes. Is that a
Well, that's the
retention pond?
point, is if we shifted it any closer to that corner, we'd be losing all those green trees that are significant. The overflow of it can go past those because that's the normal pathway down the fence of the Chester Street.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question possibly for all concerned. So how big does this stormwater pond have to be when, well, let me just put it that way. How big does it have to be, and why couldn't it be made to fit between the specimen trees and the magnificent magnolia that you just pointed out? Thank you, ma'am.
Well, that is what we're doing. The pond sizing, I'm not an engineer. I could probably defer to Mr. Nichols, but there are some sort of rules of thumb. And when I'm designing something very preliminarily, I'll use that rule of thumb that's perhaps the surface area is about 15% of the entire tract area, or about 20% of the amount of impervious surface that you're creating. That being said, we are ahead of the game here. The engineer, like I said, originally the pond was much more narrow and incorporated the entire rear property along Chester. Then we saw that magnolia, we saw the other significant trees on the lower, whatever, southwest corner, and I suggested that those be saved. They were taking a look at the ones that are up at the top, the 4 red and the 2 green, and so in working that pond between those two areas of multiple trees, groves if you want to say that, he has verified that the surface area and the volume is adequate. So we've already checked that box, is we don't need to come back here and say, we need more room. What it also did is we lost parking towards Chester Street in exchange for making it wider, which does allow more volume in the more compact area. So a combination of things. I'm just saying that design has been looked at very closely to save these trees that we're showing that are all significant, and all of the interior islands that you're seeing will certainly be planted with others. The pond as it is will have vertical walls, and that compacts it as much as possible.
If I may, a sort of follow-up question. So if I understand, so I appreciate your attempts to deal with the trees and so forth. And I certainly don't understand enough about the relationship between a stormwater pond and the percentage of impervious surface, but if I understand you correctly, then since this will be a car dealership, a fair amount of this property will be covered in impervious surface?
Absolutely,
And
yes.
thus, that will affect the size of the stormwater pond, if I understand correctly. So the question might be, why not make your parking lot with pervious surfaces, therefore maybe either eliminating the need for a stormwater pond whatsoever or reducing it enough to help us save the specimen trees?
Twofold is, again, the soil has to be of a certain criteria to allow the porous pavement to be valid. And these soils are not, with their compaction and the depth of the water table around here. The other is that we certainly wouldn't want it gravel by the nature of a car dealership, the dust and the problematic there. There are types of pervious pavements, but again, they have to tick off a box in the soil type, the soil infiltration capability, and the seasonal groundwater level. And that doesn't work here.
Have those tests been undertaken? Any soil testing or any geotech or anything to find if there's soil on site that can have pervious pavers or pervious materials?
I don't know that the soils, core samples have been done of that criteria that is already there, all of the gravel and all of the compacted foundations that these mobile homes had sat on. But at the back of the property, even if it were, it's not going to go in the middle of the property, let's put it that way. It wouldn't be feasible for the pond.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking if there's somewhere on site that then could reduce, save tree number one, you could potentially change the geometry of the pond if you happen to be able to reduce some impervious surfaces with some pervious pavers. But, yeah. Sounds like those have not been done, testing or anything like that.
Well, I mean, I just want to say that when I got involved and we were preparing for this particular, and also one to the Design Adjustment Committee, to reduce the width of the aisles to just fire services capabilities. And that's to save all the trees along this southwestern corner as it is. They lost from the original layout almost 100 potential spaces. So I truly believe that we're doing everything we can to make this viable in all cases.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else for the city before we go into the evidentiary, Pat? Okay, all right, we're going to go ahead and open up the evidentiary hearing. It's for non-parties to come forward with information relevant to this matter. Is there anyone that would like to present additional information? All right, not seeing any. Before we close, is anything from the city during the process? No, okay, good.
Nothing further.
Okay, Ms. Wolf, all right. We'll go ahead and close the evidentiary hearing. And is there anything additional, rebuttal, or from the city? All right, and Ms. Wolf, anything additional? All right, thank you. All right, well, our discussion, what is your thoughts, questions?
Is there a requirement for the trees to be mitigated on site, or is there for this, or can it be anywhere within the city?
But it's got removal of designated trees would be mitigated at 200% per code requirements. I assume that would be on the property. Is that correct?
I guess
That's correct, or through a payment in lieu of mitigation if it's not possible to replant on site.
Thank you.
so that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Other thoughts?
Well, I'm looking at our four criteria. If I'm not mistaken, the site is fairly large, and these trees are in a corner. I wish I knew enough to be able to intelligently offer a solution. And I do appreciate their efforts and the testimony about the calculations that have been attempted thus far, but I am not yet certain that an unnecessary hardship would result if these trees, or at least two of them, were preserved. It seems to me the vast majority of the site could still be used as intended, and the fact that the trees are still alive, notwithstanding that their root zone has been impacted, unfortunately, by whatever was going on the property, plus the neighboring one where the boats, where we saw were, suggests to me that maybe they could actually be incorporated in some fashion into a storm water mitigation or management solution rather than being removed entirely. So thank you.
I guess part of it is I think when the applicant put forward about the existing topography of the stack, that the best part is we don't have to be experts in that. That's why our role is not to make any of those decisions. That's why we have our technical review and our licensed professionals do that. We're purely on but I think we can take the information submitted to see, if that is the case. They're stating that the direction flow is natural to that point, things like that. But like I said, that's outside of my technical ability. And so we do, like I said, we have the four findings to determine about this variance. And so, but it's good for discussion. Anyone have questions, a motion?
If I may, just
Yes, ma'am.
interrupt, and I'm sorry. I just spoke with the applicant, and she indicated a willingness to meet on site with an arborist to determine if there was any way to save those trees by incorporating them into the stormwater pond. You all are able to condition your variances, and so should you choose to make it a condition that she consult with an arborist to confirm that there is not a way to save those trees, then she indicated that she would be willing to agree to that.
I would also like to potentially propose conditioning that soil science, or some type of soil investigation can be done on site to conclude that there's no pervious potential for any pervious pavers or such.
With that additional information, thought anybody have a motion related to this, or a little bit more discussion?
The way I look at this, I do feel unnecessary hardship would result from this. From a development standpoint, a stormwater pond is not making you money, and I'm sure the developer of this project, when incorporating a stormwater pond, is probably doing the minimum amount of stormwater management necessary, as it is a cost that is not going to be returned to them. It's just a requirement for development. And so looking at this site plan they've drawn up, it doesn't appear to me, at least obviously, that there would be a way to restructure that stormwater pond in a way that would not further take away from other protected trees or species on the lot. That's just my take on particularly the unnecessary hardship standpoint that you made, but I'm open to discussion on the rest.
Well, if we look at conditioning a decision on an arborist evaluating the potential to save those 3 trees and how the roots have been impacted thus far, and maybe some soil evaluation, is that called for, to maybe see if there can be some pervious pavers put in place to reduce the size of the pond and maybe save the trees also.
Yeah, I don't see all 3 being saved, but, the live oak potentially could be saved.
It's right on the edge of the property.
Right on the edge, yeah.
So you could do like some motion with those conditions being met. You could ask for approval of the variance with those 2 conditions after they meet those, or not. It's up to whoever wants to make that motion.
So to be clear, if I understand correctly, Catherine, you're suggesting that the applicant would be willing, after consulting with other experts, to tweak the plan if it turns out that it could save 1 or more of the trees.
The applicant has agreed to consult with a professional arborist to investigate the feasibility of saving those trees. I would like to add that may involve more impact to the critical root zone than is allowed under current code, and so we would need to request that in your consideration you also allow for an increased encroachment into the critical root zone should it be necessary to try to retain additional trees on site.
That's a good point.
Good to know. Thank you. Well, then I would like to make a motion that we approve the variance with, and I'll allow my colleague to fill in the details if I didn't quite understand his suggestion, but certainly the applicant work, if possible, with arborists to work with arborists to see whether 1 or more of the trees can be saved, and also perhaps to do the soil samples. More soil sampling to determine to what extent, if any, pervious surfaces can be used on the property to try to minimize the impact of the stormwater pond, and I hope that made sense. Thank you.
So there is a motion for approval of the variance with the conditions of consulting an arborist for the possibility of saving the 3 specimen trees. In addition to that, taking avenues of investigating soil testing to see if there's the ability of decreasing the size of the pond to save those trees. But in addition to all that, we would also want to, in that, if we do the approval of that variance, also increase the encroachment to the specimen trees. Is there a certain parameter that we would?
We would insert that into the first condition, just that if, in the professional opinion of their arborist, they could potentially save those trees, but it would mean an additional impact to the critical root zone, that would be allowable.
Okay, all right.
That would be a decrease in.
Yes, sir. Yeah, all right. Okay. All right, so there is.
Right, and the soil testing, if I'm understanding correctly, with a view to potentially having pervious surfacing utilized.
Okay, all right, so, yeah, I think I got that. So, does the city feel comfortable with the way that we just stated the motion? So I just want to make sure we all know what we're voting on.
Yes, and in preparing the order, we'll consult with you to make sure that we've captured your conditions accurately.
And I don't want to, so the motion is for approval with the conditions of consulting the arborist for the conservation of those trees, and in addition, doing soil testing to see if you can, impact some way to preserve those trees, which with the understanding that if the trees are preserved, then there would be a decrease in the root-based encroachment.
An increase to the impact to the critical root zone.
Yeah, for rezoning, sorry, all right. I think that's right, but.
Well, can you clarify the increase versus decrease? So we're trying to reduce the area that can be impacted, right?
These are for the 3 specimen trees that are proposed for complete removal. We do have a maximum impact allowed within a critical root zone, and this would be for the applicant if there's the potential to save the trees to increase the amount of the allowable impact to the critical root zone beyond what the code currently allows.
I think we're saying the same thing, decrease in the radius or the diameter of that, but we're increasing how much we can impact tracking. Thanks.
Correct.
Yeah. So is that clear?
Clear and concise, clear and concise.
All right, so there's been a motion. Is there a second to that motion? And you will have to repeat it backwards to us. No, I'm kidding aside. Is there a
Second.
Second. All right, that being the case, all those in favor of approving, say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? All right, the variance passes with those conditions. All right. We'll move on to, that is it really, that we have no further business. We've covered our other business in our early part of it. I guess we just remind everyone to pay attention to the new calendar because it does impact, and that not till our September meeting will be moved to the new space. Does that sound correct? All right. Is there anything else for us today?
Nothing further from the city. We plan to meet July 17th.
All right.
At 1 p.m.
Yes, we'll have a very long meeting, so hopefully we can have all members and all alternates at that one. All right. And lunch. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, in a second. All right, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
I never.